Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Honeydew podcast. I'm Cass.
And I'm Emma, and this is our podcast where we dive into the bedroom and beyond. We haven't said that in a long time. I like that.
Yeah, it's been a while. We've been
I
doing this a
know.
while.
We've been doing this a while. And today we're kind of showcasing a little mini-sode, which is what we do over on our Patreon, where we answer your questions that you submit to us with all of our expert tips, advice, and suggestions. And we just wanted to give you a little teaser.
Yeah, if you are not already subscribed to our Patreon, what are you doing? We release 2 of these mini-sodes over there every single month. We release a downloadable. There's merch sneak peeks. It is now the only place that you can access our full-length video episodes. And we're just really excited about the community we're building over there. So head on over there. The link is in the bio. And yeah.
We have so much fun with these episodes, and we just wanted to give you guys a little teaser about what's over there. I was going through, so when we tee up suggestions, they're usually from past episodes. So I was listening to past episodes to prep for these mini-sodes, and it's just, we were so cute and so excited about all of this content. It brought me back, and it just makes me more excited to revisit them and then share these mini-sodes because all of this content that we've built over the past almost 4 years, it's just like a gold mine, and it's so fun that we got to do it together.
I know. We've had so many amazing experts on. The expert advice is not from us. It's us regurgitating expert advice, so don't worry. We're right there with you, also wondering the answers to these questions.
Yeah.
Particularly today's, which I feel like is so important. Do you want to tee us up with the old cue?
Old Q? I sure do. Okay, the question is, hey ladies, I'm a huge fan of the show. I need some advice. So I've been with my boyfriend for a while now, and the sex is just not great. It's not that we don't like each other, but it just feels off, and I'm not really sure how to fix it. I'm kind of scared to bring it up because I don't want to hurt his feelings or make things awkward, but I also really don't want things to stay like this. I want to be honest, I just don't know how to approach it. So please help. Oof. Woof, we feel ya.
Woof, we feel ya. Been right there many a time. And yeah, I think we've got some really good advice for you. And I do want to give a little disclaimer and say that all of the advice we're giving is assuming that you feel safe and that your partner is someone you can safely talk to about sex. If that's not the case, there are lots of resources out there. You can speak to a therapist. But yeah, we're just going to give you some fun, practical advice for if it's just kind of feeling off and you don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Super normal. Been there. And we have visited this topic in almost every episode that we approach. There's always but what if it's clunky? But what if it's awkward? But what if I'm not super comfortable? And by that, we mean you feel a little embarrassed. It comes up in every single sex act you do or every single new thing you approach. Very normal. I get the tone. Let's get into it.
My first thought when we got this question was that we need to ask you some questions right back. And the first one is what's bad about it? Have you really thought what does feel bad about it? What moments feel bad? Kate Moyle in episode 101 says that if the sex is bad, it means you're not enjoying it. And I know that's such a simple reframe, but for some reason it makes it so much more approachable in my mind of just oh, what would it take for me to enjoy this moment?
And it's not that it's replacing the blame or whatever on you. I almost feel like that's a taking control question. It's oh, I'm not enjoying this. Okay, it's not that this otherworldly force has cursed me with bad sex for the rest of my life and terrible partners. It's I'm not enjoying this. How can this be approached now?
Exactly. So some other questions that kind of go with that are, is there a chance you need to reevaluate your definition of good sex? Emma and I have spent a lot of years since doing this podcast reevaluating what it means to actually have good sex, because sometimes it is clunky, sometimes it is messy, embarrassing, whatever it might be, but that doesn't mean it's inherently bad. Is it that you're putting too much focus on the orgasm and getting stuck in the orgasm trap, which is something that we talk about with Keely in a past episode? Is it that you don't feel comfortable communicating what you want and are doing things that don't turn you on? Is it that you don't know what you want? Have you been faking your orgasm so your partner thinks you're having a really good time, but you're not? Do you have trouble staying in your body? There's 1,000 things that could be going on, but I feel like those are all questions worth asking. And if the answer is no to every single one, or that they aren't applicable, that's totally fine. But I think it's a really good place to start.
And it's a very inspiring place to start because when you listed out all of these questions, it's like, oh my God, I haven't hit a dead end. I've hit the beginning of my road. Like, this is where we can start. It's not where we're ending.
Exactly.
And all of these are like beautiful journal prompts too. I remember I had sex with a guy and I didn't know if I was ready to have sex with him yet. I did, and I liked it, and it was great. But I remember feeling like, okay, but what does that even mean to feel ready to have sex? Like, all of these questions are really great reflectors. So you rattled them off so beautifully and so quickly, but like those are really big, like look at me.
Yeah.
Look in the mirror for a second questions. That I think we all need to answer, even if we're having like perfectly adequate sex. I think these are great questions to start with.
Yeah, they're always worth asking. We don't talk about sex as a society, and it's really hard to talk about sex in a relationship or as a single person. Wherever you're at, it's generally hard to talk about sex because we're not taught how to. And so, I don't know, just like we don't know the questions to even ask ourselves. And we didn't know them before experts told us what to ask. So it is really helpful. I will say that at the beginning of my relationship, the sex was really bad. And I had no idea what was going on. I'm like, it's clunky, it's awkward. Like, I don't know what the fuck we're doing. And then we just wouldn't talk about it. So then it became this like weird issue. And I was like, I don't think we're going to make it. Like, I don't think this is going to work. It worked. We're married. But I think it really was that we were bringing in all of these past experiences that weren't necessarily that positive, where we also didn't talk about our needs, also didn't express ourselves. And then we're just assuming that if it's meant to work, it'll work on its own. You know what I mean? Like if we are compatible, the sex is just going to be great automatically. But the skill sets just weren't there. And both like in the actual sex acts, but then also in our ability to express our needs. And so, yeah, the sex was bad because neither of us were saying what we wanted and both of us were just guessing and neither of us are mind readers. And so it was just really clunky and awkward.
Really clunky. And we're also taught that if the sex is bad, you're not meant to be together.
Yes.
And this isn't meant to work and you guys don't have chemistry and nothing will ever feel good. And so of course it's terrifying to bring up because you're like, oh my God, I'm breaking up with you. Like,
exactly.
if I say anything, this is us breaking up and that's not what I want. But right now I don't love how your legs are and your knees feel weird. It's like, how do I talk about this? We don't have the tools.
No. Learning another person's body is like a really weird experience.
It's a weird roadmap, man.
Yeah.
I have weird things with like top of the thigh on men. They're always so creamy and so...
What does creamy mean?
Like no sun has reached them. No matter what your skin tone is, that part of your leg has not seen the sun. And so when you are in the nude... butt naked on my bed, it's just like, whoa, I can see your short line.
I
And
can
it's just
see
kind of
your
funky.
creams.
I can see your creams. I mean, it's the same for me, although I think everything about me is perfect, but I don't know. It's just getting to know someone else's body which is another reason why it's uncomfortable to bring this up. Because you're like, I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
I don't like this.
Well, and everybody... I feel like maybe it's just what I focus on because it's what I'm insecure about. But I feel like so many people talk about the honeymoon phase, you know, where the sex is so easy and you're having sex all of the time and it's the beginning of the relationship and everything's perfect. I didn't have that. And so I was like, oh, that must mean that there is some place in our relationship that we are just not compatible. But it really was just like not having the skills or experience or like confidence to say what was going on. And once we were able to do that, the sex was great. I've shared a lot about it on this podcast.
Refer to any of the 200 episodes.
Yeah.
Like, getting to know someone else's body is a whole other language to learn, and it takes skills, it takes confidence, it takes bravery to speak that language. And we just want to be here to give you the tools to start Duolingo. We're Duolingo for your sex life right now.
That's what we're doing. Okay, so for step 1, I would say maybe just start talking about sex in general. Start asking some fun questions. Get to know your partner. Give them an opportunity to get to know you. it sounds simple, but it is so fucking important, and we don't actually do it. My favorite podcaster, Liz Moody, she's like a health podcaster, but she talks about when you're trying to change up your diet, bring in all of the good shit, all of the veggies, just start adding those to your meals. Don't worry about restricting the bad stuff, quote unquote. And I feel like we can apply that same thing to our sex lives. Like, start bringing in the fun. Sex is supposed to be fun. Start asking the fun questions, like, where's the wildest place you've had sex? Like, how often would you ideally like to have sex? What's something kinky you tried and loved or hated, but it was really fucking funny? Like, what's the most recent sex dream you had? I feel like that sparks these fun conversations that maybe give us an easy outlet to share our needs, as opposed to these more like intense, I don't like when you touch me here. You know what I mean?
I absolutely do, because I shivered when you said that just now. So if you're naked or if you just had sex, like, of course that's going to be an uncomfortable question. Also, as someone who rambles, and where I can find a tangent underground, these questions are great tee-ups to like let your mind kind of go. Like you're saying, they're like, they're a great conversation starter to like pull out a memory or pull out like a little fantasy, because once I start talking about sex, I'll think of something and it'll remind me of another thing. And those are fun conversations. You're like, well, why don't we try that then?
Exactly.
Well, why don't we talk about that more? Well, why don't we make that a fantasy? It's like, these are great ways to bring in the good, because it's just exciting. It's just fun. It's like, how can we add? So I love that example of Liz Moody.
Yeah. And maybe one or both of you don't actually know what to try. You know what I mean? So you're kind of just like fumbling through, going off of what you watched most recently in porn. And it's like, this is a good way to kind of come up with a game plan, which our first 2 episodes of the year, 50 Sex Acts to Try in 2025, is also a great place to get some game plan moves. But yeah, I just think these are really good opportunities to get to know your partner, get to know yourself, and also continue to get to know your partners. Sex is fluid. It changes. What worked for you one day might not work the next. So keep asking these questions. Our partners can't read our minds, which fucking sucks. Yeah. But like, just because you know that it doesn't feel good when they touch you there anymore, but it used to, like, they don't necessarily know that. They may think they're a fucking superstar in bed, and you're like, this is weak shit. You know what I mean?
This is weak sauce, man. I know. I hate the not being a mind reader thing. I wish just like a look with the eyes or a subtle like body movement shift like could initially tell someone what you need. I mean, it tells you. You're pretty good at reading me, but
I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, well, why do you know? Why can you read my mind? Like,
well, we're not naked.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
And we haven't tried that yet, so maybe.
So we'll see. Subscribe to our Patreon.
Yeah. False advertising.
We've done it before on YouTube. When we had like an Emma and Cass do mutual masturbation.
Yeah.
That
oh my God.
Title definitely makes it sound like we're doing something real dirty. And then they just hear us talking about how uncomfortable we are with mutual masturbation.
God, and I've mentioned this before, but my poor father who does the website for us and has to write down all of these title episodes, these show notes. God bless that man. He deserves a raise. And by raise, I mean any compensation at all.
Love to you.
Love you.
I think it's also important to remember that it probably is going to be awkward at some point, at least at first, and that's okay. You can even call attention to that. I feel like everybody says, fake it till you make it, fake confidence, whatever. And if that works for you, amazing. It doesn't work for me. I need to call out the fact like, oh my God, I'm kind of uncomfortable saying this. I'm a little bit embarrassed. And that makes me feel more comfortable. And I think it's okay to do whatever is going to make you more comfortable.
Absolutely. I have to fake it. Like we're opposite in that way, because I think I start to cry if I call out being awkward or uncomfortable. And that one just doesn't work for me. It'll work for me after, but in the moment, you know what? Maybe that's a new relationship I have to discover, because if I have to fake it during sex to get through, maybe that's something I need to work through. See? Questions, tangents, I can find them anywhere.
And now you got a topic to talk about with your therapist. Amazing.
Woo-hoo!
Amazing.
Amazing.
Gigi Engel in episode 93 says that if you wait to talk about sex until you're amazing at it, you'll never talk about it.
Oh my God.
And that's
I love
just
that quote.
The truth. That's just the fucking truth. We have been talking about sex for 4.5 years doing this podcast, and we are still not amazing at talking about sex.
No, God, no. It is so funny the amount of times that I still like have an accent when I say something, or I like get blushy when we're talking to a guest who to me appears a lot more confident talking about sex, and I'll like start to kind of shrivel. I will never be good at talking about sex because it's always uncomfortable and it's always vulnerable, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, because as Glennon Doyle says, we can do hard things and we should.
Absolutely.
And I love that Gigi quote because it reminds everyone that like if we waited so long to try something, like we're just never going to be good at it, and that's just human nature. So just start, just do it.